Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson, and this is my better late than never review of Dolittle, the latest film adaptation of Dr. Dolittle, and this one stars Iron Man himself, Robert Downey Jr. So in this movie, Dr. Dolittle is enlisted by Queen Victoria to help cure her of a deadly disease. Why the Queen is calling upon a doctor who specializes in animal care and not human care is beyond me. If the Queen dies, then Dolittle loses his home and pretty much all the animals. All of the animals that live in his large estate are now in danger. So he accepts this assignment, embarks on a perilous journey, as he says in the trailer, to pretty much save the Queen. So I've never read any of the Dr. Dolittle books, but I actually am very familiar with the film adaptations. I remember seeing bits and pieces of the 1967 movie starring Rex Harrison, who for some reason I thought was Gene Wilder just because he dressed like Gene Wilder in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I don't remember much about that movie, and apparently a lot of people tell me it's not that good, but apparently got nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, so I don't know. But I'm more familiar with, sadly, the Eddie Murphy Dr. Dolittle movies. I've seen bits and pieces of the first movie. I remember seeing the second movie in theaters. I don't know why. And I didn't know this until I was doing research for my review, but apparently there are not one, not two, but 3 direct-to-video sequels of the Eddie Murphy movies. I'm like, what the hell? Like, how did this get so many direct-to-video sequels? Is this Eddie Murphy's equivalent of the American Pie franchise, where they just get pointless direct-to-video sequels? But whatever the case, those movies were set in modern time. I remember laughing at bits of them, but I will never go back and revisit those movies. So we've got this new adaptation starring Robert Downey Jr., and I honestly didn't have much hope for this movie. I didn't think it was going to be bad, but it just didn't look that interesting. Every time the trailers kept saying from the producers of Alice in Wonderland and Maleficent, I'm like, I could do without this movie. And then reviews started coming out for this movie, and it was pretty much a bloodbath. Not as much of a bloodbath as with Cats. I mean, the reviews for Dolittle weren't as creatively worded as with Cats, but it was still a massacre nonetheless. And since I don't get invited to press screenings for Universal movies, I had to see this on opening night as part of a double feature with Bad Boys for Life, which I'll be giving you guys a review of soon. And I gotta admit, when Dolittle started out, I didn't think it was that bad. It starts off with this beautiful animated sequence that pretty much gives us a backstory of Dr. Dolittle and sets up the plot. And the first 10 minutes, I'm just like, you know what? This is actually good. Whatever thoughts I had about this movie are completely gone, and I'm excited for a grand adventure. I mean, maybe nothing spectacular, but I think it could be fun. And then the animals started talking. Let me lay down the biggest problem with this movie. It feels like it's 2 completely different movies. The movie that you get with Robert Downey Jr. and all the other human actors isn't that great, but at least it's appropriate within the time period this movie takes place in. There are definitely problems, but at least it has its own tone. When you get to the animals, however, the tone is all over the place. The dialogue is not only terrible, and not only do the jokes make you want to claw your eyes out, but all the dialogue pretty much feels like modern day dialogue. For example, you have John Cena voicing a polar bear who constantly refers to people as bro. You have a squirrel voiced by Craig Robinson who just monologues to himself constantly, and for no reason, no discernible reason whatsoever. His dialogue consists of quoting Star Trek, where he just does Captain Log and pretty much explains the situation, what's going on. It feels so out of place. And that's another thing. I mentioned John Cena and Craig Robinson, but the voices they have for these animals is pretty much an all-star cast. You have Emma Thompson, Rami Malek, Kumail Nanjiani, Octavia Spencer, Tom Holland, Ralph Fiennes, Selena Gomez, Marion Cotillard, and some of these voice actors are on screen for maybe 5 minutes, and they're just doing a voice, especially when it comes to both Selena Gomez and Marion Cotillard. Why are you going to hire these two people if they're just going to be voicing a CG animal for 5 minutes or less? You couldn't have just gotten any of the millions of voice actors out there who specialize in doing voices. And then there's a very weird moment that comes out of nowhere where a dragonfly is talking to an ant, and they reference The Godfather. Like, it's a big Godfather conversation, and I'm just like, what place does this have in a Dr. Dolittle movie? Like, this is so random and just so inorganic to everything that's going on. And then I also mentioned the human stuff isn't that great also. You have Michael Sheen as Dr. Dolittle's rival, who is just so over the top and completely goofy. You have Antonio Banderas, who I don't even know what he was trying to do in this movie. And then as for Robert Downey Jr. himself, it's a damn shame that this movie is the first thing he does after he retires from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because, man, for his sake, I hope the life model decoy line in the Avengers wasn't a throwaway line, because Tony Stark's probably going to need one at this point. But in terms of his performance as Dr. Dolittle, he isn't that good. His accent keeps changing from Scottish, Welsh, regular English, and throughout the whole movie he's so soft-spoken. It just sounds like he's talking like this the whole time. When you listen to his other roles like Tony Stark or even Sherlock Holmes, he's very authoritative and he's mostly the one in charge, at least when Steve Rogers isn't in the same room. But as Dolittle, he's so soft-spoken, and because he can't decide which accent he's doing, you sometimes can't understand what he's saying, and it's just confusing. But again, the worst parts about the movie are the animals talking, because they feel so out of place and the dialogue does not fit within this time period. And the big climax of the movie is something that I truly did not see coming, and I'm just gonna spoil this. I do not give a damn whatsoever about spoiling this movie. If you really, really want to see this movie, then just stop the review right now, go to this timestamp, and then you'll be past the spoiler segments. Now, the big climax of the movie involves a dragon, which no Dr. Dolittle film before it has ever had a dragon, and from what I've heard, a dragon's not featured in the books either. But this moment of the movie is actually foreshadowed by Michael Sheen, who's doing research on this mysterious land that Dolittle's going to, and he reads about a dragon and goes, "A dragon, ha ha ha, so ridiculous." And anybody with a brain can tell right away that a dragon's gonna pop up, because it's like that old Hitchcock rule. If you show the gun, then you know someone's gonna use it. If you mention a dragon, ironically, then you know it's gonna pop up. And sure enough, dragon. But it's a scene where this dragon is in pain and is irritated. So Dolittle decides to pretty much take care of her. And what he does with this dragon is stick his hand up the dragon's anus and pulls out armor and just anything that the dragon ate that wasn't human. And when he has his arm deep in that dragon's anus, it cuts to the dragon's head where it has this expression like its eyes are wide open, and you're like, this is not something that should belong in a kid's movie whatsoever. And this is categorized as a family movie. No way a scene like that is in a movie like this. No. So I don't have much else to say about this movie. The big question that everyone's posing right now, what's worse, Dolittle or Cats? Because most of the people out there are saying that Cats is better than Dolittle, which I think is correct and incorrect, at least for my own personal taste. For me, Cats was a much worse theater experience because I was just squirming in my chair the whole time, and it was unbearable to watch. It was just an ugly eyesore of a movie with unfinished special effects. But in its defense, it is one of those movies that really is so bad that you have to see it to believe it. With Dolittle, on the other hand, I was never annoyed watching the movie, and I never squirmed or moved around in my seat because I just wanted to leave. But it's just so generic. So I guess in that sense, Dolittle just doesn't have any what the fuck factors to offer the way Cats does. Cats, in my opinion, is still a much worse theater experience, but there's nothing quite like it. Unlike Dolittle, where you watch it and go, yeah, this is not making me squirm, but this is so damn generic. At the end of the day, Dolittle never made me angry, so I can't tell it to burn in hell, but there's no reason for you to waste your money on this. Just don't waste your money on it. It's generic, it's lazy, it can be very irritating at points, and it's just not worth it at all. At best, you could possibly rent this movie and put it on for your toddler as a babysitting movie, but there are just so many better movies to show your kids than this. Put on a Pixar movie, put on Spider-Verse, put on something much better than Dolittle, because this is what I usually say with these kinds of movies: crap on a stick. And there you go, that's my review for Dolittle. Now, as I said before, I did do a double feature of Dolittle and Bad Boys for Life. I'll have a review up for Bad Boys for Life soon, but first, I want to know what you guys think about Dolittle. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, leave a comment, support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until then, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.